All right, more of these videos are popping up. Welcome to the Cactus Dave show. More of these videos are popping up on my feed. It's crazy, but I feel like I'm getting doomer pilled or something. I'm scared what my algorithm's doing to me. But I've been seeing a ton of these videos, especially of dudes who are talking about their unfulfilled life. This time, it was a guy who said he was like 45 maybe, and it was so sad. He was sitting at his computer desk. He had a PlayStation flag behind him, and he was just talking about how unfulfilling his life is. Now he shows up to work, he checks all these boxes, he does his job, and he sits there, and it's basically a living nightmare. I don't want to speak on behalf of this person, but from what I got, even their tone, it was so sad. It's more and more of these videos are popping up on my feed where people are just talking about how unhappy they are. And I feel like maybe we just got to have an honest conversation about what work is like. Now, I feel like this is kind of a rehashing of the late 90s, like Office Space or even Fight Club, where people in the corporate setting are just absolutely unhappy. So they go to bat with a printer or whatever. Corporate America is just soulless, and so many people are living these soulless lives. Like this dude was talking about how he had these dreams of making money and then retiring, you know, semi-retiring possibly a little bit earlier than most people do, and spend some time with his kids, but that dream is no longer a reality for him, and it's so sad. But you know, on one hand, I'm watching this show called Alone, and it's about people who are out in the wilderness and they have to survive. These wilderness experts, they need to survive. And you're watching people who are eating food with maggots in them. They're like making the decision and kind of weighing their options. Like, do I eat this salmon I smoked that has maggots in it? And they end up doing stuff like that. And they're just trying to survive, and you see how difficult it is, but they feel alive, it seems like. You know, when they catch that grouse, which is a bird, I just found out, when they catch that grouse or hit that caribou, they're feeling alive. But then, you know, obviously they're like losing 37 pounds in a matter of 25 days or 31 days, and there's obviously that side of the competition where it's really tough, and it's really tough on the mind and whatnot. But then you have like the complete opposite of the spectrum, which is probably this dude who sits in a cubicle, probably the most like sterile and normal environment you could possibly find yourself in. And this guy seems more sad than the people who are trying to catch a fish and, like, you know, jumping in the water to retrieve the knife they dropped in there, the, like, you know, 40-degree water of Saskatchewan Moose Lake, Reindeer Lake or whatever. And, you know, this dude who's just trying to make it in the corporate world seems 10 times more unhappy than the other guy. And there's something to be said about having a corporate 9-to-5 where, like, you can quiet quit. And I don't know, there's something to be said about the opportunity and, like, the ability to work in such a mundane environment where you can, like, just pretend to work for a couple weeks out of the year at least. A lot of people do it like every day, but you can by and large pretend to work 25% of the time and nothing happens. You get your paycheck, you go home, you watch your Netflix, and you eat your TV dinner. There's something to be said about the comforts of that and the security of that. But then it just has me wondering, like, what's going on? Like, what is happening with our society? Why aren't people fulfilled? And one thing that I was thinking about was, you know, Bernie Sanders, he was talking about AI. And I love this dude. I mean, he's talking about shortening the work week, getting healthcare for people. He's kind of calling out all the issues, but he's talking about productivity with AI. And he's like, it's going to take a bunch of people's jobs. Why don't you pay some of that to some people so they have some extra free time? Why don't you give people time off or shorten the work week? Because all the stuff that you're doing with AI, like some things that I do is I'm like, hey, write me an email real quick that summarizes these few points because I'm so busy in the day. And it does, you know, it writes me a perfectly decent email that I got to take 2 minutes to proofread and edit. But like, you got stuff going on like that. Think about the scale of what's going on there. But it's like, can we just be honest? Like, do we really have to be working 8 hours a day? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't work. And one thing I'm not saying is that work is bad. A lot of people think like, oh, people just want to be lazy. And, people who are for the 32-hour work week or whatever just don't want to do anything or don't want to be productive. But I don't think that's necessarily true, because I like being productive. I work hard at my job, and in my line of work, there isn't really any time to quote unquote quiet quit. Day in and day out, I'm teaching a class and I have to be present and speaking in front of people and making sure people don't punch each other and stuff like that. But I mean, if we're being honest, like 4 out of the 8 hours a day that most people work are pointless. Like no one's getting any productivity out of those hours. It's just we're all pretending to be there. There's a time and a place for that 8 hours to be worked, but I mean, you know how it is. People just show up and twiddle their thumbs and it's making them miserable, and it's like, why do we have to do this? Because I don't know. But people are going crazy, man. Some people are getting apathetic and they're getting doomer mindset. Some people are, murking CEOs. Some people are flying political flags in front of their house and like buying merch, like buying the $10,000 shoes. Some people are buying Hawk Tuah coin. It's wild, but I don't know. For me, I think something needs to change. I think we're working in an antiquated system that doesn't make sense and that isn't valuable. And I think it'd be a win for everyone if we just, shook it up, because I feel like we're working in a system that was designed for things when, there were no computers, there was no social media, there was no automation, there wasn't a script you could write where you automated the logging to where every morning it cut down a fresh tree, like we just live in a different time, but we're working within the antiquated system and people are going absolutely insane. And like, could you imagine if that person was a chef and they allocated those 3 hours to like cooking or something, or shoot, even playing 15 minutes of video games? Or for people like me, I get the laundry done and I get the dishes done, I get food done. I got like 30 minutes with my kid. Imagine how much better this dude's life would be if he had an extra 90 minutes a day just to talk to his kids about how happy they are. What would that do to the kids who are going to schools and causing havoc? You know what I mean? So, I don't know, man. It's the doomer society. I don't know if you agree with me or don't agree with me. Sound off in the comments or call the Cactus Dave hotline, 619-800-5622. That's 619-800-5622. But let me know, am I crazy? Am I just a millennial, a jobless millennial? Which I'm not jobless, but you know what I mean. Or am I onto something? All right, peace.